Some countries have laws so baffling you start wondering if their governments were assembled by sleep-deprived raccoons. And just when you think you've found the dumbest one, another masterpiece of madness rolls in. Keep watching. 1. In Singapore, chewing gum is basically treated like biochemical warfare. The government banned it in the 90s because people kept sticking it on subway doors and jamming the sensors. And honestly, imagine being the official who has to explain to a global audience that your nation, one of the cleanest, richest, most technologically advanced places on Earth, was brought to its knees by Wrigley's. The best part is the seriousness of it all. You're allowed therapeutic gum if a doctor prescribes it, which is the most hilariously dramatic phrase ever invented. Like, "Doctor, my jaw hurts." Ah yes, you need controlled gum. And if you smuggle in gum, you're essentially a chewing-based arms dealer. This is the only country where popping a bubble is closer to a felony than a childhood hobby. And what really gets me? They fixed the subway sensors decades ago. But the law stayed, because nothing lasts longer than a government grudge. 2. In the Philippines, you can't take a bath on Sunday without risking a legal scolding, at least according to long-standing local ordinances no one wants to admit ever existed. And yes, someone had to write that rule down on purpose. Imagine the moment. A meeting, probably stuffy, someone raises their hand and says, "The people, they bathe too much on God's day." Nobody stands up to object. Nobody says, "Maybe we should worry about crime or infrastructure?" No, they say, "Yes, banning showers. Perfect." The whole thing feels like the Catholic guilt version of an HOA rule. And even though it's rarely enforced today, just knowing some official once looked at a clean person on a Sunday and thought, "This is unacceptable," is almost comforting. It reminds us that humans have always been bad at prioritizing. 3. In Denmark, it was once illegal to name your baby whatever you wanted, because apparently the nation feared chaos by way of creative parents. The government created an approved list of roughly 7,000 acceptable names, like they were curating a very boring art gallery. Anything too weird, too foreign, too expressive? Denied. Want to name your kid Apple? Nope. Storm? Maybe. BB11 BB11 That one actually happened, and of course, it was banned. The best part is imagining the state worker whose entire job is baby name policing. "Oh, your daughter is named Sunshine? I'm sorry, but we only accept moderately cloudy names here." And the reason is always to protect the child. Because clearly the problem isn't how society treats kids, it's the names themselves. Honestly, Denmark has some of the happiest citizens on Earth. Maybe it's because nobody ever had to grow up. Answering to XX Savage JRXEX. 4. In Japan, dancing after midnight was illegal for decades, which is hilarious coming from the country that invented karaoke, cat cafes, and vending machines that sell everything. The rule dates back to post-Huati Reconstruction, when the government was trying to curb immoral behavior. Fast forward a few decades, and you have people quietly bobbing their heads inside nightclubs like they were at a funeral for fun. Imagine a cop walking in at 12:01 a.m., music blasting, crowd vibing, and everyone immediately freezes like a wildlife documentary. The funniest part is that the law stayed in place until 2015. So for years, Tokyo had more neon signs than Times Square, but couldn't legally host a full dance move. It's like someone said, "You may drink, sing, shout, and cosplay as a space wizard, but please keep your hips morally aligned." 5. In Switzerland, flushing your toilet after 10 p.m. was once considered a noise violation, as if the sound of human dignity plumbing itself was too scandalous for the night. I love the idea that people could host a late-night cheese fondue party but flushing afterward. That's crossing the line. Imagine visiting and thinking, why is everyone treating the bathroom like a bomb shelter? Because in Switzerland, the sound of a toilet wasn't just a sound, it was a social threat. The unofficial solution was to stop drinking water at 8 p.m. and pray your kidneys were cooperative. And the whole rule was based on apartment etiquette, which is adorable until you're the one holding your breath at 12:15 a.m., wondering if the neighbors are listening like Swiss ninjas. The law isn't heavily enforced today, but the cultural memory? Oh, that's still very much alive, just like everyone's midnight bladder trauma. 6. In Thailand, stepping on money is illegal because the king's face is on the currency. So accidentally dropping a coin turns into a reflex test of royal loyalty. Imagine fumbling your change, watching a coin roll toward a street drain, and having to choose between letting it go or diving for it like it's the last ring in Sonic the Hedgehog. And heaven forbid you instinctively try to stop it with your foot. That tiny, innocent stomp becomes a political statement. Are you disrespecting the monarchy? No, I'm disrespecting gravity. The law makes sense culturally, but the practical application is comedy gold. Meanwhile, every tourist ends up playing the world's most stressful game of don't drop anything. The best part is the locals watching tourists panic and whispering amateurs. 7. In Italy, feeding pigeons in Venice is illegal because the city finally realized those birds were not charming symbols of romance, just winged pickpockets in feathery jackets. Once upon a time, tourists threw bread like they were reenacting a Disney montage. Then the city looked around and said, "Why does every building look like it's been pressure washed with guano?" So they banned feeding the little monsters entirely. And now you have tourists trying to sneak breadcrumbs like they're trafficking contraband carbs. The pigeons, of course, didn't get the memo. They still surround people at St. Mark's Square like an organized crime family. The irony? The city that sells romance to the world outlawed its most iconic tourist photo op because it forgot pigeons have no chill. 8. In France, it's illegal to name your pig Napoleon, because apparently even centuries later, the country is still not emotionally recovered from one man being short and ambitious. The rule is meant to protect national dignity, which is amazing because the entire nation basically said, "We will not let barnyard animals disrespect us." Imagine owning a perfectly cute pig, wanting to name him Napoleon purely because he looks like he's plotting something, and suddenly the state appears like, "You dare challenge history?" Meanwhile, France has towns named after wine, saints, and possibly cheeses. But pig names? Absolutely not. The law has loosened over time, but the fact it ever existed tells you everything about France's commitment to drama. 9. In China, reincarnation once required government approval, which sounds like a spiritual version of filing for a parking permit. The rule was aimed at controlling Tibetan Buddhist leadership, but on paper it reads like the world's most ridiculous bureaucratic flex. Imagine dying and then discovering the afterlife has paperwork. Welcome back. Please fill out forms A, B, and C to re-enter your corporeal form. It's government overreach so intense it literally crosses lifetimes, and you just know some overworked official had to type the phrase unauthorized reincarnation with a straight face. 10. In Canada, it's illegal to swear in public parks in Toronto, meaning at some point the city decided the geese weren't the problem. The people were. The rule probably came from one angry council meeting where someone said, "We can't control the geese, but we can control Steve." Imagine a kid dropping an ice cream cone and the parent has to yell, "Oh, fiddle-dee-dee," like they're in a Victorian play because one wrong word could technically be a fine. Meanwhile, the geese roam the parks like feathered warlords, hissing profanity in pure goose language with zero consequences. 11. In Norway, advertising to children under 12 is illegal, which sounds noble until you realize it means someone had to decide that kids were so gullible the country needed to intervene. It creates this strange landscape where commercials skip over kids entirely, leaving adults to explain why every toy aisle looks like a silent film museum. It's probably great for childhood development, but hysterical when you realize it effectively outlawed cartoon mascots selling sugar. Imagine a Norwegian kid encountering American cereal commercials and thinking it's some kind of chaotic foreign ritual. 12. In Australia, it's illegal to disrupt a wedding or funeral. And yes, disrupt explicitly includes yelling things like, "It should have been me." This is the law that proves at least one Australian politician personally knew someone who couldn't behave at events. The best part is how specific it is. Lawmakers basically said, "Listen, we've all got that relative. Let's just make it a crime." It turns emotional chaos into a legal event, which honestly might be the only way to keep certain unhinged exes away from ceremonies. 13. In Samoa, forgetting your wife's birthday is a crime, which means the entire nation formally recognizes male incompetence as a public safety hazard. Imagine being arrested not for doing something shady, but for doing absolutely nothing. cops show up like, "Sir, we've received reports of emotional negligence." It's both sweet and terrifying. Sweet because it protects spouses. Terrifying because it sets a dangerous precedent. Governments remembering dates better than you. And somewhere in Samoa, a guy is sitting in holding whispering, "I swear I thought it was next week." 14. In Germany, running out of gas on the Autobahn is illegal because apparently they view poor planning as a greater danger than driving 150 miles away. The logic makes sense. Stopping is unsafe. But the idea that a cop can ticket you for your engine's personal nervous breakdown is peak German efficiency. Imagine standing next to your car, fuel gauge at 0, and the officer walks up not with sympathy but disappointment. You had one job. One. You can practically feel your ancestors judging you. 15. In Scotland, if someone knocks on your door and asks to use the toilet, you're legally supposed to let them in, which sounds polite in theory, but in practice is an introvert's horror film. Imagine minding your own business when a stranger appears like, "Hello, I need your loo," and you have to choose between social anxiety and becoming a criminal. The law stems from old hospitality customs, but today it reads like a prank Scots keep forgetting to confess to. 16. In Malaysia, it's illegal to wear yellow clothing during certain political crackdowns because the color was associated with protest movements. Imagine being arrested not for chanting or marching, but because your t-shirt matched the wrong vibe. "Sir, you're under arrest." For what? Fashion-related dissent. It turns wardrobes into political statements, whether you intended it or not. Somewhere, a tourist definitely packed their sunshine yellow vacation outfit and accidentally cosplayed as a revolutionary. 17. In the UK, it's illegal to handle salmon suspiciously. Yes, that is an actual phrase written in actual legal text. It was meant to stop illegal fishing operations, but the wording makes it sound like the police are tracking down shady fish smugglers lurking behind alleys. Imagine a Bonish cop stopping you. "Sir, we received a report that you looked at that salmon oddly." Suspicious salmon handling is now my favorite crime category because it leaves everything to the imagination. Are you cradling it like a baby? Whispering to it? Plotting against it? The law doesn't say. Just don't look suspicious around fish, which feels like advice for life in general. 18. In North Korea, wearing jeans is banned because denim is apparently too rebellious for the regime, which is hilarious when you consider most people in the world wear them specifically because they're comfortable, not because they're trying to overthrow a government. The logic is that jeans symbolize American imperialism, so a pair of Levi's is treated like an ideological threat. Imagine waking up, reaching for some basic blue jeans, and realizing you've just committed fashion treason. Somewhere there's a government official writing reports like, "Citizens remain calm, except for one who attempted to approach public space in denim." And the best part? They don't ban all pants, just ones made of a fabric that 99% of humanity uses for chores, errands, and pretending they didn't dress from the floor pile. Imagine a world so fragile that a zipper and some cotton stitching represent a cultural assassination attempt. That's when you know a country isn't afraid of armies. They're afraid of denim. 19. In Greece, high-heeled shoes are banned at ancient historical sites, supposedly to protect the ruins. But let's be honest, this is the rare law that assumes tourists show up ready for a runway show instead of a sweat-soaked climb through history. The worry is that heels might damage the marble, which makes perfect sense until you remember these structures survived wars, earthquakes, and Julius Caesar-level drama. But one set of stilettos? Absolutely catastrophic. Imagine security patting people down, not for weapons, but for excessively fancy footwear. Also, the idea that someone would willingly trek up the Acropolis in heels tells you everything about the chaos of human decision-making. Somewhere out there is a tourist who absolutely would have snapped an ankle mid-selfie, and Greece said, "You know what? We will save you from yourself." And honestly, that might be the most compassionate legislation on Earth. 20. In Russia, it used to be illegal to drive a dirty car, which is the kind of rule invented by someone who has never experienced weather, mud, or the existence of potholes. The idea was to preserve public order, because nothing says unstable society like a dusty Toyota. Cops could literally pull you over and fine you because your car wasn't glistening like it belonged in a dealership ad. Imagine living somewhere with freezing winters, endless slush, and roads that resemble geological experiments, and the state expects your vehicle to look freshly detailed at all times. That's like telling someone in a hurricane to keep their hair neat. Meanwhile, the government claimed it was about visibility of plates. But let's be honest, the law read more like an authoritarian car wash subscription plan. You can't fix the roads, but you can make sure citizens suffer cosmetically. 21. In Portugal, it's illegal to pee in the ocean, which is painfully adorable because the ocean is literally the world's largest bathroom and has been for every species since life began. The law exists because, well, nobody really knows. But I assume some official once saw a tourist wading out suspiciously and snapped. The funny thing is, you cannot enforce this. What are the police going to do? Send divers? Sir, our underwater sensors detected warm water near your location. Meanwhile, fish do their business nonstop, 24/7, completely unsupervised, but humans are the problem. This is a country with gorgeous beaches, warm water, and plenty of drinks flowing. Yet they've created a moral code that expects thousands of people to hold it out of sheer patriotic discipline. It's adorable optimism mixed with stunning delusion. 22. In Sweden, it's illegal to paint your house any color you want without government approval, basically turning homeowners into contestants on a reality show judged by the Ministry of Taste. There's a strict palette of approved shades because heaven forbid someone expresses individuality somewhere other than IKEA. Imagine the application process. I'd like my door to be light blue. We regret to inform you that your request violates chromatic harmony statutes. The entire country looks like a perfectly curated Instagram grid, which is gorgeous, sure, but also hilarious because the only thing stopping Swedes from painting a neon pink nightmare is the law. Somewhere there's a chaotic soul who dreams of a lime green house and has to suppress it like a dark secret. 23. In Japan, owning a sword requires a special permit, even if you're a modern-day nobody who just wants to hang it on the wall like a samurai-themed conversation piece. And yes, this makes sense historically, but the best part is imagining the bureaucratic process. Why do you want this sword? Decoration. And you're absolutely sure you're not planning to reenact a battle? Mostly. It's one of those rules where you can tell the country said, listen, we know our history. Let's not tempt fate. And while the law is reasonable, the image of a clerk stamping sword paperwork with the same seriousness as mortgage documents is unbeatable. Meanwhile, American laws let you buy a medieval broadsword online with 2 clicks and no adult supervision. 24. In Israel, picking flowers in the wild can be illegal if the species is protected, which sounds noble until you realize there are actual rangers enforcing floral justice. The story goes that people loved picking certain flowers so much that the government stepped in like a parent saying, "Okay, you've had enough nature for today." Imagine being fined for holding a bouquet like a criminal mastermind caught red-handed. Sir, do you know why I stopped you? No? You're holding contraband poppies. It's the only place where you can be treated like a botanical smuggler for doing something toddlers do instinctively. 25. In Hungary, the word tokaji is legally protected, meaning you cannot name anything tokaji unless it is specifically wine made in a specific region, because apparently nothing is scarier to Europe than creative labeling. It's the same energy as champagne laws, but somehow funnier because tokaji sounds like something you'd name a TikTok food trend. But no, Hungary will absolutely fight you. Imagine a farmer trying to sell tokaji-style grapes, and suddenly EU legal teams descend like wine-themed Avengers. It's all to preserve tradition, but the intensity is wild. You'd think they were protecting nuclear codes, not fermented grape juice. 26. In Bhutan, smoking cigarettes was banned nationwide for years, making it the first country to legally treat tobacco like Voldemort. You couldn't buy it, you couldn't sell it, and if you wanted to smoke, you basically had to go on a black market quest like you were hunting forbidden treasure. And the funniest part is Bhutan is one of the most peaceful, serene nations on Earth, yet they created a law so draconian it made nicotine look like a Class A crime. Imagine trying to explain this to a tourist. Yes, you can meditate in the mountains, but if you light a cig, you're entering felony territory. It's the ultimate good parent energy. 27. In the UAE, swearing, including online, is illegal, and you can be fined or deported for dropping a digital F-bomb, which creates an incredible image. Cops reading Instagram comments like international peacekeepers. The logic is that swearing disrupts public decency, but but imagine how careful you'd have to be posting anything online. One moment you're ranting about your hotel room, the next you're at the airport with a strongly worded flyer about manners. Meanwhile, the internet is literally built on swearing. It's half the platform, but not in the UAE. There, even emojis have consequences. 28. In Finland, speeding tickets are calculated based on income, which means millionaires can receive fines equivalent to the cost of a luxury car for driving slightly too fast. The idea is fairness. The effect is comedy gold. Imagine going 10 km/h over the limit and receiving a ticket so large it needs its own envelope. There are actual stories of executives getting six-figure tickets and having to explain to their accountant why taking the scenic route cost them a mortgage. Meanwhile, regular people get normal fines, so the system is fair. But wow, does it make rich people drive politely? 29. In Mexico City, you can't walk your dog without carrying a poop bag. And if you don't clean up after them, officials can actually fine you. Meaning somewhere out there is a government worker whose job is evaluating the suspicious presence of unclaimed dog droppings. It makes sense. Nobody wants surprise landmines. But the enforcement imagery is priceless. A tiny squadron of civic detectives staring at sidewalks like forensic investigators. Yes, this appears to be fresh. Bring in the witnesses. It's the only crime scene where the suspect is wagging its tail. 30. In Japan, it's illegal to waste food in certain municipalities, and restaurants can be fined for throwing away too much, giving us the world's first legally enforced finish your plate policy. Somewhere, parents are applauding. The law was meant to reduce waste, but imagine the pressure. Sorry, we can't close tonight. Table 7 didn't finish their ramen. Meanwhile, chefs are probably begging customers to order realistically. You can picture a waiter gently suggesting the smaller portion not for health reasons, but because the police might evaluate the leftovers. It's wholesome intent meets strict execution. 31. In France, you cannot force employees to read work emails after hours, which is less a law and more a government-wide intervention for people whose bosses have no boundaries. They call it the right to disconnect, and honestly, it's brilliant. Meanwhile, imagine being the boss who sends a midnight email and finds out you are the one breaking the law. It's the first country to legally recognize what we all know. Corporate messages at 11 p.m. are crimes against humanity. Somewhere, an HR manager is sobbing softly while shutting down Outlook. 32. In Venezuela, it's illegal to wear camouflage clothing if you're not in the military, which makes shopping dangerously tricky in a world where fashion brands love slapping camo on everything. Imagine accidentally buying a camo-patterned backpack and finding out you've committed both a fashion mistake and a crime. And enforcement is no joke. You can literally be stopped because your shirt looks too tactical. The irony is that camo is supposed to help you blend in, but in Venezuela, it makes you stand out like a neon sign that says, "Trouble." 33. In Singapore, yes again, feeding pigeons is illegal because after banning gum, the country decided to take on birds next. Officials claim feeding them encourages overbreeding and disease, which is true. But the mental image is amazing. A government so committed to cleanliness that scattering breadcrumbs is treated like biological sabotage. Somewhere, there's a grandmother who just wanted to feed a cute bird and ended up feeling like she participated in an international crime ring. Meanwhile, pigeons everywhere else are thriving on free carbs, blissfully unaware that in Singapore, they're part of a national security strategy. 34. In Norway, advertising unhealthy foods to children under 18 is restricted, effectively turning candy commercials into illicit contraband. It's an attempt to protect kids, but it creates this surreal world where you can see ads for cars, insurance, and mortgages. But candy? Absolutely not. Imagine being a kid and encountering your first American commercial filled with loud mascots and exploding chocolate bars. You'd think it was a foreign propaganda broadcast. And somewhere, a Norwegian marketer is sitting in a dim office whispering, one day, we'll show them the ice cream commercial." 35. In Japan, it's illegal to dance on certain beaches at night because apparently the ocean cannot be trusted when paired with rhythm. And the government took one look at carefree moonlit partying and said, "Absolutely not. Joy is a daytime activity." The rule exists for safety, sure, But the result is a country that will let you buy raw horse meat from a vending machine but panics if your hips sway after sunset. Imagine a group of tourists hearing music, walking toward the shoreline, and then a patrol officer appears like a chaperone at a middle school dance saying, "Feet on the sand, eyes forward, no enthusiasm." Meanwhile, the ocean is right there, doing its own chaotic choreography with zero oversight. The whole thing feels like the government once lost a bet to the sea and decided dancing was the line between order and total collapse. 36. In Switzerland, owning only one guinea pig is illegal because the government considers them social animals who cannot be left alone, meaning this is the first nation to legally acknowledge that rodents have better emotional support networks than most adults. The law actually makes sense. Guinea pigs get lonely. But the application is unintentionally hilarious. You can imagine the official explaining it with the seriousness of a diplomat. You must acquire two so they can discuss their feelings. Meanwhile, people everywhere else are out here buying a single depressed guinea pig like it's a desk ornament. The best part? If one guinea pig dies, the owner must quickly get another or risk being deemed a rodent neglector. It's the only country where you can't be single, even if you're a furry potato with legs. 37. In England, it's illegal to be drunk in a pub, which is one of those laws that tells you lawmakers have never met an actual human being. Imagine walking into a bar, ordering a drink, and secretly participating in a high-stakes sobriety competition monitored by bartenders who are legally obligated to pretend this makes sense. The entire business model is drink here, yet the law says, but not too convincingly. The absurdity is incredible. Patrons are allowed to get buzzed, but authorities draw the line at noticeably intoxicated. So technically, every British pub is a national improv theater where everyone pretends not to be hammered. Meanwhile, the law remains on the books like a ghost of long-dead temperance advocates haunting the modern world. It's like making donuts illegal inside donut shops. But hey, it's England. Tea solves everything. 38. In China, drivers are legally required to stop and assist injured pedestrians, which sounds noble until you realize it was passed, because some people used to do the opposite, accelerate responsibility by, well, accelerating. This is one of the darkest, we had to make a law for this stories ever, and the result is a country that had to write morality into traffic regulations because humans can't be trusted with either cars or consequences. Imagine someone explaining this to a foreign visitor. Yes, we have a law requiring you to help people you hit. And the tourist goes, "You needed a law for that?" The bureaucracy of it all feels like the world's bleakest mutual assistance pact, the kind where compassion is legally mandated like it's a software update. And honestly, fair enough, humans have proven they need instructions. 39. In France, it's illegal to kiss on train platforms because too many couples were causing delays by having emotional movie-ending farewells while the trains just sat there like very expensive third wheels. Picture a conductor tapping their watch as two people reenact the climax of every romance film ever made. Eventually, France said, "Listen, love is beautiful, but you're blocking the 4:15 to Lion." The ban isn't strictly enforced anymore, but the idea that people were so committed to passion that it disrupted national transportation schedules is peak France. They outlawed PDA not for morality, but for punctuality, which somehow feels more French than bread and existential dread combined. Honestly, it's the only law where the villain wasn't romance, it was delays. 40. In Italy, sitting on certain historical monuments can get you fined because the country finally realized it possesses several thousand irreplaceable treasures, and tourists treat them like ergonomic furniture. From the Spanish steps to ancient fountains, Italy had to strategically weaponize fines because people kept using architectural masterpieces as resting spots, picnic areas, or, tragically, TikTok backdrops. Imagine a 2,000-year-old column surviving empires, invasions, and earthquakes, only to be damaged by a guy eating a sandwich while scrolling through his phone. Italy reached its breaking point. Now, security guards patrol like cultural bodyguards, ready to tackle anyone who thinks marble carved by Renaissance masters is an aesthetic-leaning surface. Honestly, this law isn't absurd. The fact it had to exist is the absurdity. 41. In Singapore, because of course it's Singapore, it's illegal to own a pet cat in public housing apartments, which is ironic in a country obsessed with order. because cats are basically self-cleaning, self-operating miniature introverts. Dogs? Fine. Cats? Absolutely forbidden, like they're planning a rebellion. The logic is noise and cleanliness, which clearly means lawmakers have never met an actual dog. Meanwhile, the cats of Singapore roam freely outside like tiny outlaw fugitives, while their owners are indoors whispering, "Act like you're a decorative pillow if anyone knocks." The best part is that the ban exists in public housing, where most people live, meaning the government accidentally created a black market of felines. It's prohibition, but adorable. 42. In North Korea, there's a state-approved list of 18 male hairstyles and 15 female ones because even your haircut must serve the revolution. This is the ultimate micromanagement of personal identity. Imagine going into a barbershop and flipping through a government-issued catalog like you're choosing printer icons. No long hair, no creative interpretation, just 18 state-certified looks ranging from government intern to guy who disappears if he jokes wrong. Meanwhile, teenagers everywhere else are bleaching their hair into chaos, while North Korean youth have to show loyalty through side parts. It's the only place on Earth where self-expression is a national threat level. 43. In Saudi Arabia, Valentine's Day was banned for years because authorities argued it encouraged immoral behavior, meaning the government officially declared war on roses, chocolates, and heart-shaped capitalism. Stores had to hide red items like they were smuggling illicit romance. Imagine walking into a shop on February 14th and seeing blacked-out shelves like some kind of emotional prohibition zone. Couples had to be covert. Secret gifts, secret plans, secret feelings, all because a holiday invented by greeting card companies was deemed too powerful. The ban has since loosened, but for years, Valentine's Day operated like an underground resistance movement powered entirely by florists. 44. In Germany, it's illegal to run a lawnmower on Sundays because nothing says cultural values like a government-mandated quiet day enforced by sound-based judgment. This rule is so German, it should come with its own efficiency rating. It's part of the country's rest day laws, which essentially tell citizens to stop doing anything audible once the weekend hits. Want to drill something? Forbidden? Want to vacuum? Not unless you live dangerously. Meanwhile, somewhere in Berlin, a rebellious homeowner is staring at their overgrown lawn thinking, "Is this worth becoming an outlaw?" And the answer is always no. The neighbors absolutely will report you. 45. In Iceland, owning a pet turtle, lizard, or snake was banned for decades because of a salmonella outbreak in the 1990s, proving the entire nation collectively decided, "No thank you, reptiles, we've seen enough." The logic was public health, but the outcome was a country where having a pet gecko was treated like trafficking forbidden dragons. Meanwhile, Iceland already has no mosquitoes, no McDonald's, and barely any trees. Add no reptiles, and it begins to sound like the world's cleanest apocalyptic bunker. Even funnier, experts now say reptiles aren't the threat they thought. But Iceland still hesitates, like a traumatized parent who doesn't trust lizards anymore. 46. In India, flying a kite requires following the same law that governs aircraft, meaning technically you become a pilot the moment your $3 paper triangle leaves the ground. You need to follow airspace rules, avoid restricted zones, and can theoretically be penalized for reckless operation. Imagine some official writing up a report. The suspect performed dangerous maneuvers with a Disney-branded kite. It's mostly about safety, but the legal wording makes it sound like children everywhere are running covert air forces. Meanwhile, grown adults fly drones with fewer consequences. So yes, in India, childhood whimsy is regulated air traffic. 47. In Canada, removing a bandage in public can technically violate indecency laws because nothing threatens society like the sight of a used Band-Aid. The idea is to prevent offensive exhibitions, which is simultaneously hilarious and understandable because bandages are universally disgusting. But imagine being the poor officer who has to enforce this. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to put the adhesive strip down and step away slowly." Somewhere in Ottawa, a man unpeeling a Band-Aid in a park unknowingly flirted with criminality. Truly, Canada's politeness knows no limits. Even wounds must be humble. 48. In Cambodia, water guns were banned during the Khmer New Year for years because the holiday got so rowdy that authorities said, "Enough fun, everyone go inside and think about what you've done." People used to turn the entire capital into a massive water battlefield, which frankly sounds amazing. But the government insisted it was unsafe. Suddenly, shopkeepers were hiding water pistols under counters like festival contraband. Imagine kids asking for them and parents whispering, "We can't." The state says hydration-based joy is illegal. It's possibly the only country where squirt guns required actual stealth operations. 49. In Australia, it's illegal to disrupt weddings or funerals, which we covered earlier. But here's the twist. It also includes any event deemed solemn, which is as vague as it gets. Meaning somewhere in Australia, a guy could be arrested for heckling a very serious ribbon-cutting ceremony. Imagine police debating whether a party is solemn enough for protection. Is this barbecue sacred? Not yet. It turns emotions into legal terms, making every public gathering a potential courtroom drama. And the funniest part? Australians are famously chaotic, so you know someone absolutely tried to test this law the moment it passed. 50. In Malaysia, it's illegal to possess or distribute obscene materials, and the definition is so broad it once included overly passionate dance moves, meaning somewhere a government committee once watched a music video and said, "Yes, this is the downfall of society." Enforcement has mellowed, but the idea that choreography can be contraband remains unmatched. Imagine a police raid on a group practicing a hip-thrust-heavy routine. Officers kicking down the door yelling, "Put your pelvises on the ground where we can see them." It's absurdity wrapped in cultural panic wrapped in legal caution. 51. And finally, in Samoa, it's illegal to forget your wife's birthday. Yes, we hit this earlier, but here's the kicker. The law is still taken seriously enough that men actually set yearly reminders like they're defusing a bomb. This is the one rule that proves international law isn't just about safety or order. Sometimes it's about emotional survival. Imagine getting hauled in because you didn't buy flowers. Sir, do you understand the severity of your negligence? And honestly, this law makes perfect sense. After all the absurdity, banned gum, government-approved haircuts, outlawed Valentine's Day, we end on a rule that every married person worldwide understands instinctively. Forgetting your spouse's birthday? Yes, that should absolutely be illegal. Mic drop. We just toured a world where human laws make pigeons look logical. So tell me, what's the dumbest one you've ever heard? Drop your winner in the comments, hit like, maybe subscribe, and let's keep digging into this beautiful nonsense.